Greetings, everyone. This is Brett Provenzano, Superintendent of the Fairport Central School District. I'm here today to talk about a very important topic, a topic rightfully so that is on everyone's mind, school safety. Given the context of our national circumstances, it's a topic that is on people's minds. I'm here with a bunch of my colleagues, people who invest so much time and energy into this topic so we can make sure that our schools are welcoming, affirming, and safe for all school members. I am going to spend the next 40 to 45 minutes reviewing questions with my expert panel. To my right, I would like to introduce
Pat Grohl, Principal at Joanna Perrin.
Erin Moretter, Principal at Northside.
Matt Stevens, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Deb Miles, Director of Student Services.
Sam Farina, Safety and Security Coordinator for the district.
And Bob Clark, Principal here at Fairport High School.
Like I was saying, there's a number of questions. We have about 8 or 9 questions that we fielded through direct interactions with community members, families, students, and staff. We're going to do our best to answer those questions. But if we don't answer a direct question, that's because we do not want to compromise the integrity of our safety plans. If you have specific questions, we ask that you do reach out to your direct supervisor or building principal. I will now turn it over to Lindsay Reddig, who is our communication specialist, who will be facilitating this session.
The first question, describe the district's safety and security philosophy. How does the district use drills and tabletop exercises to prepare at a high level, at a building level, and how is that information gleaned from those exercises distributed to building staff?
Our number one priority is creating a safe and secure environment for the promotion of student education here at Fairport. So as part of that, we are doing a deep dive right now into performing drills as required by the State Education Department in coordination with our own drills in-house. We're moving to do tabletop exercises routinely in person, and also we're going to be doing some virtually to incorporate everybody throughout the district to get their mindset wrapped around different situations may occur in the district. So that'll be driven down to the building level where principals and assistant principals can then promote that same type of ideology for their staff and training as well. So that's kind of the overarching purpose of security. And I do want to stress that when we're doing security here, it is a system-based approach. So it's not just a unilateral effort. We involve everybody, all the stakeholders within the Fairport community as part of our diligence to ensure hypervigilance around the district and on campus so that everyone plays a part in our security needs.
So I would just add to that, when Sam speaks of that layered approach, we're also considering the layer of prevention and starting out with prevention first. And some of the work that we've been doing recently in Fairport is our year-long review of our code of conduct, character, and support, and making sure that when we're addressing student behaviors, that we are coming at it with a skill-building approach along with the restorative approach to repairing harm, and also, when necessary and appropriate, holding kids accountable for their behaviors. But putting in place many supports to help kids work through their conflict, restore relationships, and learn from the experience that they've been through.
So from the building level, in terms of disseminating that information, the primary vehicle that we use is our faculty meetings and onboarding timeframe that we have each year at the outset. Last year in August and this year the same idea. We use those faculty meetings to walk through any minor changes that might exist in terms of our security protocols. For example, this year we had to deal with construction, make sure our kids were aligned with what was going on around the building, in the building, and so that our teachers can then disseminate that information in the classrooms. And as Sam talked about, we do tabletop type exercises and do a number of drills each fall and then again in the spring.
Great. I will move on to the next question. This is sort of a broad one. Who is responsible for school safety? And some felt, this was a feedback from our staff, that the district's messaging after Texas put all the emphasis on how the teachers are responsible for stopping violence. So the question is, Where is the community's role? What is the administration's role? And what are its responsibilities? And what about the Board of Education?
I'll start out by saying that the Board of Education and myself, we have prioritized safety and security. We have a full-time safety and security coordinator, someone who that's all they think about. They review our policies and practices. They work with different stakeholder groups to make sure that we are positioning our staff and our students and our community for the safest possible best practice in school security. It's been a priority and will continue to be a priority as we continue to move along. And when we talk about educators, we mean everyone. We mean teachers, we mean school bus drivers, we mean paraprofessionals, we mean coaches. Anyone who interacts with our students while at school has the responsibility. We know that our students are best served and are safest when everybody is looking out for each other and supporting each other in our caring environment.
We partner quite a bit with parents and those that are ensuring that their children are coming to school and it's safe. And we want to make sure that they're aware of our safety and security procedures, and them, those folks as partners in this endeavor was certainly going to be the success we're looking for, especially when it comes to prevention. Prevention is key here. We could have a layered approach and, harden schools as much as we want, but the bottom line is, unless we're preventative and we partner with the community and our folks here on campus, everybody plays a part in security and safety, we're not going to be able to make a difference. So that's the need for everyone to be involved. It's not just a SAM job. It's everyone's responsibility. If we make it part of the culture, it'll be very easy to have a safe and secure environment here to learn and to grow.
But I think the integral part of our approach here at the high school is to have strong relationships with kids and understand that kids have a trusted adult that they can go to when they see something. And I think that we pride ourselves on putting effort and energy into those relationships and fostering those relationships and identifying sometimes when we think kids need a strong adult to go to. So that's a big part of this process and the philosophy that we have here. And it's tied in with our sentries, who their number one goal is to build relationships with kids and be observant.
The most important job that we have as building principals is working to ensure the safety of our students and staff. And it is a shared responsibility, as everyone has stated so far. I think there are tier one things that every person in a school community is responsible for, as simple as wearing our ID tags and our fobs and using those when we're coming and going from the school. As Bob had shared, we need all staff and all members of our school community to report things when they see something. We do need them to say something, and our responsibility as the building principal is to make sure that those are followed through and investigated, and then to use our code of conduct as necessary.
Yeah, and everyone's saying all the right things on this too, which I totally agree with about setting the tone. And I think we can model that as building administrators, especially like I have no problem asking someone if they don't have a badge, whether it's a parent or someone I don't recognize. Hey, how are you? I'm Pat Grohl, the principal. What can I do for you? What can I help you with? And explain to them, make sure that badge is visible and going from there. Also, as we do our routine checks about checking doors and things like that, we talk to the kids all the time about like, hey, if you see something just about a door being open or something, let us know. We talk to the kids even after school hours about practices and things like that. There's ways to do things and go from there. So maintaining that order of this is how we do things and why we do things is good. We try to keep it friendly, certainly with families and people we don't know, but at the same time, I think everybody knows safety's first in there and said it right. That's for all of us to make sure we're doing it the right way.
We're all connected. See something, say something makes a difference. It works. That's our families, that's our students, that's our staff. Everybody has an opportunity to share a concern, and that's how you are an interrupter in what could be a dangerous situation or potential dangerous situation. So it's highly intentional that we communicate and that we're always on with our head on a swivel, and we're making sure that we're supporting our school community to the best possible means. We have wonderful relationships with Monroe County, Department of Health, Monroe County Law Enforcement, and our Fairport Village Police, who are great partners.
See Something, Say Something is an icon on our home district webpage, and it is connected to our Safe Schools Helpline. And you can make anonymous reports through email, text messaging, or phone call, and those are communicated 24/7 directly to us as safety officials here in the district.
Okay, we will move on to the next question. Describe the district's security efforts and plans for building security as part of our security mitigation plan. Does our infrastructure meet safety and security standards?
So I spoke earlier about a layered approach, and that layered approach is really designed to detect, delay, and respond. When it comes to building security, we have made great strides recently here in the district to ensure that the appropriate safety requirements are in place. Such things as a single point of entry. We have a robust video system that exists throughout the district. We do door monitoring on all exterior doors. We have stringent visitor policies, IDs that are enforced, as was just talked about during the last question. And we also have a Sentry program here that acts as in a manner to get out into the school community and interact with students and be that trusted adult that students can go to and report things that may be suspicious or concerning. So all these different layers of security and exist in a manner to promote that security and safety here in the district. Oh, and one other thing I will talk about, when we talk about communication too, we're recently on the verge of enhancing our communication efforts throughout the district with a upgrade in our radio system so that we can talk to one another very easily now across building to building without much effort. It's been problematic in the past, and I'm happy to report that we've made great strides to ensure that that's going to be a better way of communicating with one another, so we can do mass notifications. We can get real-time information to every school in a moment's notice, and that will certainly help our strategy with keeping schools safe and secure.
And I'm just going to talk a little bit about what that looks like in the building. So starting off the school day, when students arrive at school, visibility is so important. Parents should see staff members standing outside, standing by open doors as their children are arriving to school. And that should be the same at dismissal as well. All staff, we all own the responsibility of making sure that doors are closed, and upon the arrival to school day, all doors are locked. It's making sure that our main offices are utilizing the protocols when visitors arrive at school, asking questions. You know, as Pat shared, we love our families, and, I think we all take a lot of pride in knowing our families. And, if there's a student or a person arriving at school that we don't know, we need to ask the right questions just to make sure that we're clear on their intent of why they're at the school building. I think too, within this building and with our staff, we're always practicing the required drills. We debrief and take feedback after drills, and we're always open to ideas and input and opportunities for how we can enhance and improve our just protocols and overall infrastructure of the buildings.
So we've sort of touched on it a little bit, but I want to dial in. What strategies are employed by the district to ensure that doors are locked during school hours, and we have a lot of coming and going at all our buildings after school hours? What are the protocols there?
So recently we've upgraded our computer system and our platform to ensure that we have real-time door monitoring, so we know exactly when doors are opening and closing. With that, we can tell if a door is being held open for a long period of time, and we react in real time to that situation so that it does not become an issue. That's during school hours. After school hours, we are working towards staffing up with sentries and folks to actively be involved in the schools and the events, again, as a means of safety for those attending, but also, as an extra eyes and ears that's out and about here in the community while we're doing after school activities.
We also have a bit, during the day, again, it's that constant checking the doors when we're doing our building laps and walking around, especially during times when our phys ed groups are outside or going from there. We talk to our phys ed teachers about making sure you're the last one out, close that door, give it a pull to make sure that's okay. Again, we talked about, the visitor badges. One of the unfortunate things about our pandemic, we were having not visitors come into the building a little bit. Even now, though, we continue, if a student's going home sick, our nurse walks them out to the parents' car instead of the parents having to come in too, just to cut down on some of the people coming in and out of the building. But as Aaron said, it's in constant communication, the building administration with us, with our front or our main entrance, if there's any issue, if there's something going on at the door, someone doesn't have ID, something like that, to work through it too. At the end of the school day, it's our custodians. They have a hard set time about when to lock doors. We have standing meetings with them about what we have going on after school. Somewhere like, Bob's building here at the high school, where even we have concerts and activities or something going on all the time. So it's trying to coordinate those with who's going to be in the building to make sure they know who's coming in, who should be there, and working through that too.
We maintain an active presence at both the single point of entry in the front of the building, which is our primary entrance for visitations and people. We maintain presence where our loading dock is, and we've got active cameras there to make sure that deliveries come and go through the correct process. And then we have an active sentry desk in the back of the building to monitor our seniors as they come and go through senior privileges and things like that. So again, adding to what everybody else is saying, we have protocols in place to, our sentries and our administrators and anybody that's on hall monitor duty, moving throughout the building and checking on things like propped doors and things like that. So it's just some consistency around that. It's really a visibility and vigilance that needs to come into play for that.
And if I could jump in and add to what Pat and Bob mentioned as it relates to activities taking place during the day, also important to understand the activities happening after school hours, both with our own events such as concerts or performances or activities, but also any outside groups using our facilities. So we do have a facility use request process that takes place. There's an individual that's in charge of those in charge of those events, and then that informs both the building administrators, those in the building who's using the facilities, as well as our buildings and grounds custodial staff, so we understand who's using our facilities in the evenings, just to have an understanding who's able to be in the buildings after hours and how long they'll be there to and from, in terms of knowing who's in our facilities at those times.
So we'll stick with you, Mr. Stevens. What are the plans and timelines for each of the 8 buildings' safety improvements, and what will those improvements look like?
We have a couple different pieces of capital work taking place in the district, both in the voter-approved 2019 capital improvement project, as well as our smart schools work taking place that Sam had referred to earlier a little bit in regards to classroom door locks. But first I'll talk a little bit about the larger capital project and the work taking place. And at each of our 7 school buildings you can see on the screen, the reason the high school is not here is because the high school actually had this improvement made in the 2015 capital project vote. But we'll be doing some secure entrance and security fire alarm improvements. And what that means overall is basically we transition to single point entry in our buildings, in our school buildings, as well as our ancillary buildings. But now adding at the school buildings a secure vestibule. So when an individual will be coming into the building, they'll then be held in a secure vestibule where the proper checks and balances can take place before admittance into the school itself. So here you can see the timeline of the work for Martha Brown, Brooks Hill, Minerva DeLand, and Jefferson Ave. That work will be taking place over the summer. For Joanna Perrin, Dudley, and Northside, that will be next summer, in the summer of 23. So there's the timeline on the improvements taking place, as that was an important aspect of the voter-approved capital project for us to move forward with as a district to continue to enhance our safety and security as a school community.
I just want to emphasize the importance of sequencing this out. It all just doesn't happen in one summer.
Correct. Yeah, the construction, it's a construction timeline based on availability of contractors and space and all the work that's taking place across the district. So sequencing the work to align with other work that may be taking place in the building as well, because there are other pieces of work taking place across the district on top of these secure entrance and security improvements. The next piece of work taking place is related to our Smart Schools bond project. And this was work that was approved, funding was available made by the state back in 2014-15. And the district worked diligently to ensure that these monies were spent properly on a long-term solution rather than simple technology replacements, et cetera. So trying to get the most, maximize the dollars itself, looking at upgrading our security within the buildings and the school buildings. So here we have conversion to new access control system, interior wireless locks, our building lockdown feature, and security camera additions across the district and replacements. And phase 1 of that work You can see the buildings listed there: Balmer District Office, Brooks Hill, Jefferson Ave, Dudley, and Northside. The buildings, each building you see listed here, that work will be taking place through the fall, winter of 22. Will be receiving lockdown feature improvements, additions. The interior wireless locks will be taking place in our school buildings, so that's where you'll see classroom doors will have fob access as opposed to the existing key access, to allow for a more seamless transition in terms of opening and closing access to within the classrooms, as well as the security cameras and gaps we have across the district. So you heard for phase one is this summer, and then phase two of that work is expected to take place from April of 23 through the fall of 23. And here you can see the remainder of the school buildings where that work will take place. And again, also related to phasing of the work. These are, the funds are reimbursable funds, so the district is managing the phasing of both the construction availability of the hardware and contractor work, coupled with the dollars to work through the process. And that's the process of phasing through the construction that the district has worked through, coupled with the work that's taking place in the 2019 capital project.
Great, thank you. What does the research indicate about the behaviors and actions of active shooters and potential active shooters in a school setting, both before and after an incident?
Well, I think it's important to note, we talked about, why we do drilling and why we do tabletop exercises and what have you. It's important to look at the research and understand what's been going on in the past. So as you look at the research, there's been over 1,500 police-related shootings since 1970. So if you look at the research that's brought about, interesting enough, 476 since 2016 have occurred. So it's on the rise, unfortunately. But what it's showing is that the way and the manner we drill is done in a fashion so that we can mitigate any type of risk to our students in our community here. So 100% of the time, if the students were out of sight and they're locked in the classroom, nobody was harmed and there's no loss of life. So that's why we drill in the manner in which we drill. So the importance of locking doors and being out of sight is important. And we also took a look at, what is the motivation? What's going on with that, with the research? And Deb's going to get into a little bit here, but targeted violence is not something where somebody snaps and they think about it immediately and they go out and do it. It's a continuum. It's a process. We understand that it is a phased process. And the need to be preventative and intervene quickly has shown time and time again through every police shooting or every active shooter scenario that that is the way to prevent these from happening. So we understand the science there, and I'm going to let Deb talk about some of the motivational factors that have been seen in the past and how that relates to the research.
Thanks, Sam. So we're going to go back to prevention here, because that's, again, what it's about. So it's great that we're doing all these wonderful things to our facilities and making our buildings safer, but all of the initiatives we've been doing in the past 5 years is critical in terms of identifying who these students are in all of these situations, or at least in most of these situations. These were students that were known to the district where they were. They are marginalized students who were either removed from their school community or removed themselves from their school community. There were triggering events that people were aware of, and there was social media warnings or other types of warnings that people were aware of prior to the events. Again, going back to see something, say something. We do a lot in Fairport in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, related to our code of conduct, restorative practices. We are in our 5th year of implementation with that piece, and that is solely about our staff, teachers, administrators, mental health staff, understanding who our students are, where they come from, the experiences they have outside our buildings, and what they bring to school with them every day, and making sure that we're there to support them and put interventions in place to help them maintain a healthy, resilient life. We also, in Fairport, are proud of and have the support of our Board of Education around the mental health programming for our students, and have at least, if not more than 40 mental health professionals in our district, across school psychologists, school counselors, school social workers, and behavior specialists. They receive training in mental health first aid, which educates all of our staff about the mental health illnesses that are oftentimes affiliated with adolescents and or connected to substance abuse in some ways. We have trauma-informed care training for our staff. We have trauma-informed or a trauma, illness, and grief team that is employed every time anything occurs outside of our schools or in our schools related to our families and our students, so that we can put on another layer of support to help them cope with anything that may be happening. And then most importantly, and most proud of, for the past 4 to 5 years, and Sam has been intricately involved in this, we have our behavior intervention team, which is all about threat assessment. And that is the prevention model, started here in Fairport and now branching out across New York State in terms of having a collaborative group of law enforcement, the Office of Mental Health, school administrators, district level administrators, Sam and myself, and we meet weekly to talk about any students, families, or community members that we have concerns for and that we need to put into place any interventions to help support them, and using community access to do that. So I think, again, if you look at any of these stories that are traumatic as they are across our country, in most cases, the news stories, the research has shown us that these were cases that could have been prevented had people intervened, had people spoken up, had districts kept those students close to them. And that is kind of our initiative with restorative practices, is moving in a direction of keeping kids close to us, supporting them through conflict and discipline issues, so that we are able to better help them develop skills in the future and remain healthy.
What is the plan in the future in Fairport for utilizing sentries for building safety and security?
So the sentries are part of this effort to ensure prevention and identify those that maybe not are having a good day through relationship building. That's the primary focus of what they're involved in. Student interaction, staff interaction every day. And their sole purpose there is to ensure safety and security through building positive relationships with our youth here in the schools. We're hoping to add more sentries and more coverage to other buildings, and that's as we go forward. That's discussions that are being had right now with the superintendent and his office to see if we can start building on this program, which we see to be a very important part of our safety protocols here in Fairport.
So in terms of law enforcement, what is the current law enforcement response to an emergency or active shooter situation at a Fairport school?
I've had the privilege of working for the Fairport Police Department, as well as the City of Rochester and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. And I could tell you and everybody unequivocally that if law enforcement is asked to respond here in Monroe County to a crisis situation, as it were here, they would not at all fail to act, and act swiftly and act quickly, and be very dedicated to ensuring that there's safety and security throughout that situation, and resolve it quickly as possible. So although you've seen a lot of recently with a lot of questions about how law enforcement is going to react, I can assure you that they're going to react in a manner that's going to resolve the situation quickly, and they're going to come with a great amount of staff and resolve to that situation. So I'm very dedicated to know that the training here is very good in Monroe County, probably the best in the country. So there will be no hesitation on the part of our law enforcement to address any situation that they may be called to here in the district, again, without hesitation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Provenzano.
Just some parting thoughts from our principals. Just want to get some last thoughts. And of course, I would like Mrs. Miles to share a little bit about the Safe Schools Hotline once again, because we know that does make a difference. We'll start with Mr. Groh.
Be on top of your kids' social media accounts, especially in middle school sometimes where they're just starting to use them and going from there. But that's where there's clues either about if they're struggling or they're hearing something or seeing something. Sometimes they say that without using our hotline. So I think that's always important for parents. We all, and this is parents, teachers, administrators, we all want a safe, happy, healthy educational experience for all the kids. So we're all in the same team on that, just working together to make sure we're covering all the bases.
Sure. Something I'd like to share is just a line that has stuck with me from a training that we all attended a summer ago, and it's the idea of not worrying alone. So the idea that you hear something, you see something, and that worry or that thought stays, in your mind. Don't just keep it to yourself. I think I can speak, on behalf of all of my colleagues. We would rather take a phone call, take an email, take a text message, with something being shared that causes anyone any concern or consternation, and have the ability to look into it. And to our parents and to our staff members, thank you. We truly value your partnership.
Just two thoughts that I wanted to share before we go today. The first would be to say I'm incredibly grateful for the partnerships that we do have with Monroe County, for the Office of Mental Health, Monroe County Sheriff's Office, and obviously, hopefully, too, as well, depending on the school, the Fairport Police, because we have some divided territories there. They're incredible partners, and it's very comforting to me to have them come into the building and to know that we have pre-existing relationships and to know that we can focus on the needs of our kids. And that has grown significantly since we put this BIT process in place. The second is a little bit of a plea to the school community in terms of how we deal with this information. It's 100%, what we do is dependent upon the see something, say something. But there's a part of that that also becomes challenging when people post things on social media in a rumor type way. And so when you have that kind of information, our preference would be that you deal with us directly and not post something on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, which can cause a general hysteria within the school communities. And that's happened to not here in Fairport, but in other neighboring school districts. And it causes panic and fear. And so we have a lot of responsible actors here. And I think that the responsibility piece within the community to, when you have any information that you think is concerning, not post it to ask questions to the school community, but contact professionals in the school that are going to be able to look into that immediately, because the hysteria causes additional issues for law enforcement to work through and school officials to work through while we're trying to get to the heart of the matter. So again, it's critical that we know what's going on, but social media is not a place to post a question or a rumor when you don't know anything, that you can't verify that stuff, because it does cause more harm than it does good.
In addition to the partnership and the praise that Bob has given them, they are actually more and more visible in our district, not just showing up on Fridays for that important meeting, but spending time in our parking lots, coming into our schools, saying hello to our students, walking the halls, and being present. So we appreciate that effort as well. Last plug for Safe Schools Helpline, right? It's out there. The icon is on the website. It is anonymous if you want it to be anonymous, or you can be a reporter so that the administrator can get in touch with you directly. Whatever you report, when you can report as much information in detail as possible, it helps our investigation go quickly. We would just remind you that anything that seems imminent to you and dangerous should go to 911 immediately, and they will discern that. Anything that goes to Safe School Helpline that you believe we should be aware of comes directly to myself and Will for Sam as well, 24/7, whether it's a phone call to our cell phones at night, whether it's an email or a text message, and we get the full report and then pull in the appropriate building administrators to address that.
This is definitely not the last time that we'll be talking about this very important topic or imperative. We hope this session was informative. Please know that we make a difference together. We're always better, stronger when we work cohesively together. School safety is one area where this cannot be compromised, and I know that our school community agrees with that sentiment. This is an ongoing process, and it is built into our work as a school district. It's evolving, and we're always growing and learning and relying on each other and best practices when it comes to keeping our schools, our students, and our staff and community safe. Given the context of our circumstances, it's probably one of the most important things we could do to provide levels of assurances across all of our buildings. So we are honored to be fully immersed in this imperative. If staff or family members have more questions, please reach out directly to your building principal or your direct supervisors for further information. That's all we have for now. Thank you very much, and have a safe, healthy, and happy summer.